Back again. My name is Aaron Graber with Ventrac. Happy to see all of you guys here for another edition of a Ventrac Live product launch. We got some cool new product to show you today, but before we get there, we're going to do what we always do and give you a deal on some Ventrac gear. So you can find these hats in the Ventrac gear store. I'm sure there's some other styles too, but these are pretty representative of what's in there. And the deal that we're going to give you guys this time, as a thank you for being here, is buy one, get one. And I don't think there's a limit to this, so if I'm wrong, they can maybe correct me in the chat. But I think you could just get as many as you want and get them one free with every one that you buy. So the code is BOGO hats. Buy one, get one hats. I actually wore this one myself in one of the videos on this new product that you'll see here in a little while. But cool hats there. You'll find those online. Next, we want to cut to a product reveal video that shows this new product. Some really cool shots, gives you a really good idea what's going on, and kind of get you amped up for this. And then we'll cut back from that, and I will go over each one of these things from front to back, show you all the features, and we'll talk about why they're important, where they're used, and what to do with them. So we'll see you back here in just a few minutes. All right, those videos are awesome. I know they always get me excited to look at Ventrac product, hopefully you as well. Here we are back in the studio. These are the two attachments that we're launching. So, buy one, get one. Not quite on these attachments, you gotta buy them both, but 2-for-1 deal at least. This is the Soil Cultivator, and this is the Primary Seeder. So we're gonna talk about both of these things. They both hold a very significant part in our line as part of a greater whole group of attachments that we're using for lawn installation. So let's start here with the cultivator, and we'll talk about all of the parts on this thing, and then we'll jump to the seeder, talk about that too. So what you're going to notice here is a bunch of different stuff working all together. This is actually a pretty simple attachment to run, and what this attachment does is it prepares soil for lawn installation. Now, you can do that today without this attachment if you're using something like a power rake and a landscape rake and some other things, but it doesn't give you the absolute best possible results. And what this does is it gives you the absolute most premium finish on any job. And you can do this with bare soil, you can do this with kind of spotty, gross turf that's not that great, you want to turn into something better. But there's a couple different videos that we'll show in the future that show it in different conditions and help explain that. But the whole name of the game here is to make a single pass and turn an area into the perfect seed bed to plant turf seed into. And what is a perfect seed bed? The perfect seed bed is enough loose soil on top to give the roots of the seed a lot of area to take hold and be able to suck moisture up. It gives it the best possible chance at germination. It helps you seed and see positive results faster as a contractor or anybody doing this type of work. So this is the attachment you're going to start with, and it's going to be used after you do all of the surface prep. So you're going to see a bulldozer probably on a new construction site, let's say, doing rough grade, and then after that you're going to start with probably power rake to kind of do some leveling, get the whole area ready. And then if there's any other side tasks, we'll talk about that here at the end. But once you're done with the power rake, you're going to use something like this, and this is going to give you your final pass to the point where it's really truly ready to take it over then and use the seeder. And this operates kind of like a tiller in some ways. So it has some tines in this housing that are a little bit like tiller tines, but they're a little more broad, so they move a lot more soil. And you're running this attachment in reverse. Those are the two key things, or one of the two key things in operating this attachment is it's in reverse, first of all, and second of all, you're working from the right side to the left. So that's why I'm over here on this side to show you. This attachment has a bit of an offset to it. So the offset is up here at the front. You're working on, let's say you make a pass, you're going to take the whole setup, you and the tractor and everything, to the left side of the operator, and then this side of the attachment is going to overlap. So you'll make a reverse pass, you'll drive over, make another reverse pass. And I'm going to go over here on this side to explain some of the features. So like I said before, it acts a little bit like a tiller on this portion of it. So it is a PTO-driven attachment. You'll see the gearbox here, and these tines are moving soil just like a tiller in some ways. And then that soil gets processed through this whole machine. That's the whole point of it, is processing soil and then leaving behind a smooth-ish finish. It's actually more of a textured finish, and there's a reason for that. We'll get to that when we talk about this drum. But the finish is smooth in the sense that it's ready to plant into. So after the soil gets hit by the tiller tines, it runs through these sifting tines. And anything that's larger than the gaps in between these tines hits them and then gets buried underneath the loose soil. So this is doing a very important job of burying larger material. Now, it's not something that's going to be able to bury something large like a cinder block. You know, the whole attachment's going to choke up on something that big. So you have to get the large debris out of the yard with a bucket or a rake. You know, big logs, big bricks, stuff like that is always recommended to get out first. But these tines will effectively bury very deep rocks of a pretty wide range. So anything from like nickel sized up to the size of your fist, maybe a baseball or softball even, will bury those rocks. And then the soil that's left over after that is mostly screen soil. That hits this plate right here. And this plate does the job of distributing that soil across the attachment and then feeding it into this roller. And then once it does that, the roller then packs that soil down, and all of the weight of this attachment is resting on this roller, because this roller is what you're using to control your depth adjustment. So this is what's riding on the ground. This is basically suspended between this and the hitch arms. And so all of that weight of the attachment is pushing this roller down, and this is burying all of the small stuff then. And ultimately what that is supposed to lead you to, if you have all your setup right, is soil that is really beautiful in a nice consistent pattern. And you'll see actually the patternized look of this roller show up in the soil. You saw that in the preview video, and we'll show you some videos here a little bit later in the future too. And this pushes all that small material in. And what you'll notice when you're done is you'll have this like perfect seed bed where you can walk into it and you can just feel all of the soil sinking in and being very soft so that it has a great place for seed to germinate. There's not a whole lot to know about this attachment in terms of operation other than how to control your depth, and then the adjustment here on this plate that's dragging soil behind it. So these adjustments here you can see on this side, there's a range of basically what this amounts to is high and low. If you pull this pin, pull it out here, a little bit sticky from new powder coat, and you can see as I move this lever, this plate's going up and down, and so that's allowing more or less soil to go through here. And we'll be sure to do some operational videos so that you guys can master this as quickly as possible. But this adjustment is really the only thing that's on the attachment itself during operation that you have to worry about in terms of controlling the flow of soil through. So this is really cool. Ultimately, where you're using this and where it comes into play the most is on really high-end installs or when you want perfect results. Like I said before, it is possible to do this with just a power rake, and you don't really need this attachment if you're just trying to knock out acres and acres of ground. But what it does do is it helps speed you up in terms of germination and also gives you better results with germination, so you can use a little bit less grass seed, be a little bit more cautious about the application rate. And that is starting to become a lot more of an issue for contractors, especially with seed prices going through the roof. And at the end of the day, your clients and your contacts that you're working for are going to see the best results. They're going to appreciate the final results more using an attachment like this to finish it out. And that's a perfect segue to the second attachment. So if we want precision seeding and we want to be able to use as little seed as possible and still have awesome results, we're going to need a really nice seeder, right? And here we have it. So this is our primary seeder, and this is the complement to this attachment. This is why we're launching them both together. We can't really have one without the other, but you could use one without the other. Kind of depends on your setup and your situation. So this seeder is a little bit simpler of an attachment. There's not a whole lot going on here other than precision seed application. That's basically all you're doing. It's non-PTO powered and it's ground driven. The advantage of it being ground driven is that it's variable in the speed that you're traveling while maintaining the right drop rate. So once you get your drop setting, you can drive a little faster or a little slower and it's still dropping the right rate given your ground speed. So it's pretty simple here. This is your hopper. I didn't do that. So buy one, get one. Another reminder, buy one, get one hats. I'll put these over here for now. You guys are clever. Okay, this is your hopper, 5 cubic foot capacity. And Mark, if you want to come over here real quick, I'll show you. You can see these notches down in here. This is where the seed hits. And you can see these pieces in here that will help meter out the seed. So this is a very high precision metering system, and those pockets gather the seed and then drop it out at a very controlled rate. Again, this is a 5 cubic foot capacity, so pretty large. What that translates to is, some people will rate these things in terms of pounds. Grass seed is all a little bit different. So this is designed for turf seed, a bunch of different varieties, and all varieties are different. Sometimes it's mixes, sometimes it's pure seed. But it could be 150 to 300 pounds, kind of depends on what seed you're running through here. But the actual volume is 5 cubic feet. Over here on the other side is where you're going to make your gate adjustment. And your gate adjustment is what controls the drop rate. So you loosen this lever, slide this over to a setting, and then do some tests to figure out how much you're dropping. And then once you're locked in here, this is very tightly controlled, very precision setup. The way that you know how much you're dropping is to use this calibration tray. So this calibration tray is built into the unit. When it's in this position, this is the run position, the seed is actually dropping behind this tray. And so this is just kind of hanging out here doing its job, just staying there. And then you bring it out. Oops. You flip it over like this, and then put it back in and push it all the way to the back. It kind of nests in there. There's a catch. And then that's how you calibrate your seeder. So what you'll do is you'll make a gate adjustment. You'll run for a certain length of distance. And then you'll do the math on that to figure out how many pounds per thousand you're dropping based on how much has made it into the tray. So you'll remove the tray, you'll weigh that seed. If it's not enough, you'll go back, give it a little more gate adjustment so you're dropping more seed, make that adjustment so that it's landing right where you want it to be. And then once you're done, you lock that down, make sure that that gate adjustment stays there, remove the tray, flip it back over, and then all of the seed will drop out of the attachment onto the ground. So the only thing left to talk about in terms of performance is the cultipacker discs here. These front cultipacker discs do the job of essentially driving into the soil that's prepped, and they kind of like smooth surfaces over if there's clods left over or if there's any like imperfections in the dirt, and they help to just buff the soil out a little bit. But what they also do is these individual points poke small holes for the seed to fall so that it gives it a nice area to land. And then the more important thing is the rear cultipacker discs are actually offset from the fronts. So in a linear pattern, they're offset, and what that does is it closes those holes back up. When you run this attachment, what you'll find is the seed that's dropping after the rear cultipacker row runs over it mostly disappears, and it gets covered by a light layer of soil. And the importance in that is that it's shielding it from the weather, from wildlife, from things that, rain, runoff, that sort of thing. It doesn't necessarily mean that you can avoid putting straw down or any sort of like pen mulch or something to help trap the moisture, but it does help you give the opportunity to do that if the conditions are right, and it certainly makes the need a little bit less important. And so what we're ultimately doing is giving the seed better seed to soil contact, shielding it from the elements, and then giving it the best chance to come up quickly and efficiently and not lose seed that doesn't germinate. Close this back up. Okay, so those are the two brand new attachments, and that's basically all there is to say about them. Again, this one kind of looks complex, this one looks a little simpler, but at the end of the day, they're both pretty simple attachments. They are, this one especially, going to require a little bit of operator training to figure out how to best run it in your soil conditions. The tips I can give you right up front is that this attachment, basically the way to run it is to put it into the dirt and then make constant adjustments from the seat of the tractor until you find that sweet spot. And then once you find that sweet spot, typically that's not going to change a whole lot from where you're at on one spot of the property to the next. So once you get it into the ground, you can just roll from there. Other tips that I could give you from using it myself: this attachment works really well with a high horsepower tractor. So it's all about ground speed here. You can run it on any of the 4520 machines, 4500s, anything like that. It doesn't require any special kits, but the more power you have, the faster you're going to go, and speed is your limiting factor with this unit. So again, we're very happy to show these things. They sort of round out the lawn installation package that we've been working on for a long time. That's actually what I've got behind me, is this banner to sort of represent that whole package. You can see down here, you got the power bucket, landscape rake, power rake, soil cultivator and seeder. I especially like this photo of the soil cultivator. You can see in this particular area that we're working on, there's actually some vegetation still there. And what it does a great job of is turning that vegetation over, giving you this awesome, like cake-like surface that just looks perfect to plant into. But as a part of the whole package, it now gives you the ability to use the Ventrac to create the ultimate results in turf installation. We were always good. Now, I can't say we're perfect. Nothing's perfect, but we're as close to it as you can get, I think. These two attachments give you the ability to knock out massive properties in a good amount of time, or they're really not that crazy wide. They both have a 52-inch working width. I think I actually missed that before. So if you have to get into the backyards of residential areas or something like that, if you're working as a contractor doing new home installs, areas like that, our tractor presents a really maneuverable package in those situations, much more so than a skid steer or a standard size compact tractor. So I think it does really good in those ways too. And it just, it rounds out that package, gives us the best ability to install on any sort of areas you'll be working in. Both of these attachments can be run on tractors with dual wheels, but keep in mind, if you're running dual wheels with the cultivator, your wheel setup will overlap the working width of the cultivator, so you'll be fighting a little bit of that overlap. It's not the end of the world because you're going to hit it later with a seeder. And then also with a seeder, the only difficulty that you'll have there is that, like, as you're doing your seeding rows, it's just slightly harder to see the exact row that you've been in previously, but still works the same, doesn't cause any problems. And so being able to run duals gives you the ability to use these attachments in the times of year where you're actually going to be using them. Typical seeding happens spring and fall, and as we know, ground conditions can be a little bit soft in those times, and being able to use our tractor to do this whole process is highly beneficial, as opposed to using other equipment. So now that we have these two attachments, we can basically tackle all of the challenges that these installs throw at people, from terrain to soil conditions to seed accuracy and speed. We basically got a solution for everything, and it's going to be awesome. So I've done a couple big jobs with these myself already. It's been a lot of fun running them. This attachment in particular, not to take anything away from the seeder is that final piece that is just awesome to use. But this attachment in particular, when you get the setup just right, is quite satisfying to see the end results. It's, I don't know, it might even be better than hacking something down with a tough cut, because the end result is this transformation, and that's what you love to see, one thing to the next. Hugely satisfying. So get yourself some time on these, call your local dealer. These are actually going to the Equip Expo, and they will be there tomorrow through this Friday. I will be there also tomorrow. So your first chance to see these two attachments in the real world will be in Louisville, Kentucky at the Equip Expo, and we'll be there tomorrow through the end of the week. You can come check them out there. If not there, call your local Ventrac dealer, tell them you saw these attachments in a live video and you're interested in looking at them or demoing them, and they should be able to hook you up. So these will be shipping fairly soon after this video. And if you have any questions, you can call your dealer and ask them about, total pricing, delivery times, all that stuff. I just want to say one more time, thank you for watching this live video. Thanks for attending. We always love to see the whole crowd here asking questions. Anything that hasn't been answered in the chat already, we will make sure to get to and follow up with you guys. And be looking out for future videos showcasing these two attachments. We've been working with them all summer, and before that as well, gathering footage and showing them working out in the field. So thanks again for coming. If you have any more questions, be sure to visit us online at ventrac.com. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. I've actually gotten a couple requests from people after some of these live videos to add them to the list. There really is no list, so if you're not getting the notifications, it means because YouTube's either removed those notifications or somehow you accidentally unsubscribed or something. So be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we will be back next time with more product videos. I'm getting one more notification from the peanut gallery. Hats, another reminder, BOGO hats. Buy one, get one free. One for you, one for a friend. Thanks for coming. See you next time.